So, oh, もうこれが
Okay.
見えてるんですね。Yeah, I'm an artist director of Aichi Triennale, and I will give a presentation about the concept of Aichi Triennale. But before that, I will explain about my work and also introduce myself and also some relationship with March 11 disaster. Yeah. First, I want to introduce myself. I am an architectural historian and critic teaching at Tohoku University. So I have published over 10 books about architecture and urbanism, including the titles of War and Architecture, Invisible Earthquake, and The Birth of Wedding Chapel. And sometimes I organize architectural exhibition. Left one is real size house model project at Yokohama Triennale. I was commissioner of Japanese pavilion in Venice Biennale. At that time, Junya Ishigami designed small greenhouses around the pavilion, and he will join Aichi Triennale 2013. I was involved with March 11 disaster when the big earthquake attacked the eastern part of Japan in 2011. The building of architectural department in Tohoku University was damaged badly. After March 11, I could not use my office, so the students lost classroom and laboratory space. Now we moved to another campus and use temporary building. Huge tsunami triggered by the earthquake struck 500-kilometer section of coastline and devastated countless towns. So I tried to visit many striking places along coastline because Sendai is located in the center of the suffered area. These figures indicate the height of tsunami. Comparing with the Sendai Mediatek, tsunami reached at almost 20 meters high in some areas. I found situation of damage is not uniform. In each places, different type of destruction occurred. Taro was well known as a town with big and long three-layer dikes called the Great Wall. But when I visited, it was collapsed and town was destroyed. After that, I wrote a book, What I Thought, during working in striking areas. For me, this became a concept book of Aichi Triennale. People noticed a huge number of wooden houses were swept away, but I was very shocked in Onagawa because reinforced concrete and steel-framed buildings had turned over. And you can also see cars on the roof. In Onagawa, liquefaction of soil occurred after the earthquake, then 20-meter high tsunami attacked, so stakes were pulled out and the whole building floated in the water. Collapsed building was moved and toppled to the ground. I thought we have to preserve damaged structures in Onagawa because buildings had been destroyed in a manner rarely seen anywhere in the world. In this drawing by my laboratory, a black wall with the same height as the tsunami Salon toppled building. Our laboratory was also involved in real project, the assembly hall with a symbolic tower for temporary housing site in Fukushima, rather than merely serving as a functional place to pass through. This project tried to create a landscape that will live on in residents' memory. Even if the residents move to another location to start their new life, they shall remember the days of temporary town with tower. On the four exterior walls, contemporary artist Naoyoshi Hikosaka drew a large mural with hope for the resurrection of Fukushima. Hikosaka will build Tower of Resurrection for Fukushima at Aichi Triennale 2013. After March 11, architects did not simply stand by and watch. Through the country, they rose up and began asking themselves what architecture can do. They moved forward with variety of projects. Therefore, I planned this exhibition to introduce how did architects responded immediately after the disaster. This exhibition will tour over 20 places in the world. Compared to the 1995 Great Hanshin-Awaji earthquake, there were a lot of projects. I have divided these projects into 3 phases. The first phase focused on immediate relief actions and initial response in the emergency shelter that was set up for people who lost their homes. This is a project of an architecture postgraduate student. Kazunari Fujimura provided cardboard furniture to evacuation shelter. He will join kids workshop program of Aichi Triennale. Architects also organized new network called Arch8 to support disaster area. For the second phase, various types of temporary housing were designed by architect. Shigeru Ban realized unique 3-story structure by stacking shipping containers in Onagawa. Toyo Ito began Home for Our project because he felt there was often a shortage of place for residents to gather, relax, and talk with others. Several were already built, and exhibition at Venice Biennale won Golden Lion Prize. The third phase introduced restoration plans. Ambitious young architect Ryuichi Fujimura designed the Cloud City for refugees from Fukushima. He also proposed second national axis to hedge against the risk. He participated in Aichi Triennale and will launch a new government office building project with several laboratories of university in Nagoya. It is also important to convey memories of disaster to future generations because earthquake and tsunami are cyclic in nature rather than limiting this pathway to the creation of books and digital archive. The possibility of maintaining several sites is discussed, like the atomic bomb dome has been preserved in Hiroshima, but it is quite a difficult issue in Japan. Foundation Town by Katsuhiro Miyamoto is a proposal to preserve the memorial of a neighborhood that was devastated. In this plan, concrete foundation of houses will be converted into flower beds. He also suggested to put Japanese-style roof on top of nuclear power plants. After it was turned into stone tomb, the Fukushima #1 nuclear reactor shrine would stand as a memorial for 10,000 years in the future. After the Great Hanshin-Awaji earthquake, Miyamoto remodeled and reinforced his parents' house, which had been marked for demolition. For the Japanese pavilion at Venice Biennale, he brought rubble from the quake-hit region for a display that earned him a Golden Lion. So after March 11, Miyamoto headed swiftly for the disaster zone, taking clue from memories. He found Aichi Art Center, main venue of Aichi Art Triennale, is larger than Fukushima nuclear power plant. So he will transfer the reactor to Aichi Art Center in imaginary way. Now the work with cutting sheet is going on inside Aichi Art Center. Then plan and cross-section of nuclear reactor will be appear by 1:1 scale. Next, I will explain about the concept of Aichi Triennale. The first Aichi Triennale of 2010 brought festivity to the city with art diffusing into the urban space and welcomed over 570,000 visitors. This time, main theme is awakening. Where are we standing? Earth, memory, and resurrection, which comes from my personal experience after March 11. Aichi Triennale of 2010 gave general public various ways to enjoy artwork, and second Triennale will add another aspect to think through artwork. I think contemporary art reflects change of society. We need to rethink what has happened to the ground we stand on our identity. Aichi Triennale will use 2 museums of fine art and many places in the city, drawing out the power of place through the works of artists and architects. I believe the power of memory through artwork becomes important, and art should resurrect hope. So the aim of Aichi Triennale will be to make the communities where we live brighter and better. This is a member of the curatorial team. I will introduce several artists deeply related to main theme. Reiko Shiga lives in the eastern area of Sendai and lost her house by tsunami. Though through the installation of photographs, she expressed spiritual memory of place and community she belongs to. Aichi Triennale will be her first major exhibition in Okazaki, where she was born. Rias Art Museum is located in disaster area. The curator staff were affected by March 11, and the museum had to close for 16 months. Curators took photographs from immediately after the disaster and collecting items left in destroyed town. This museum has a vital post-disaster role to play in communicating the memories of the historical event to future generations. Fumiaki Aono's work is unusual repair of broken items. He lives in Sendai and did not change his method after March 11. He has subsequently worked with debris, including items from his own neighborhood, destroyed home of relative, and seashore. Several foreign artists made research in Tohoku region for Aichi Triennale. Blast Theory from UK had interviews with fishermen live in a temporary housing. And new work will be inspired from stranded big ship by tsunami in Kesennuma. Arnold Mick had interest in a refugee after March 11, so his new work will focus on biggest refugee in Fukushima. Alfred Jarr visited Okawa Elementary School, where many children died by tsunami. This is a place of tragedy. So he will make a memorial installation using blackboards of school from disaster area. Nina and Marwan from Berlin will create video work on radiation issue. After the workshop based on Akira Kurosawa's film about the fear of nuclear weapon. So Myung-jong chose historical building, which possess a narrative theme and exhibit installation of that architectural model looks like in the process of dismantling or explosion. Terunobu Fujimori is both an architect and architectural historian. Recently, he designed flying mat boat and the walking cafe. His floating tea house will appear in the park at Aichi Triennale. And the message to post-March 11 Japan from Yoko Ono will be exhibited in the city. And this is the final one. Kenji Yanobe created Sunchild as a monument to hope after the Great East Japan earthquake. This is a 6-meter standing figure of a child with a helmet of his protective suit removed. Geiger counter at his chest indicates 0. He also proposed to make a temple of sun inside the museum. People can hold wedding ceremony with sun god's blessing. This project means resurrection of hope. That's all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Igarashi.
Igarashi-san. So I'm going to pick up the torch at that point.
Okay.
My name is Lewis Biggs. I'm one of the curators for the Aichi Triennale 2013. And I thought I'd start by explaining why I was invited to help with the team, which comes from my experience in Liverpool Biennial, where I was the artistic director for 10 years, and in particular the business of making sure that an exhibition engages with the city outside the museums. So this is the Aichi Prefectural Museum in the Aichi Prefectural Arts Center, right in the center of Nagoya, one of the largest venue for the Triennale, where many of the artists' work will be shown. For instance, Cornelia Parker's installation from 2004, Perpetual Canon, we are borrowing to show in this place. It's a work which obviously predated the events of March 2011, but there's a reason to celebrate it or to listen to it in Nagoya and Japan more generally because of the stories circulating after the earthquake and tsunami about schools who lost all their instruments, and there were campaigns to recover the instruments so that music could help in the healing process. The second museum in Nagoya is the City Museum, built in the 1980s, very redolent to the 1980s. Jonathan Borowski here and Red Grooms. The architecture is in itself a memory of a particular period in Nagoya's past, and so it's raw material with which architects can now work. I want to pick up on Igarashi-san's theme about art being the most powerful memory tool that we have, art and architecture together. This, for instance, is also in Aichi Prefecture. It's not part of the triennial, but it's very close, so visitors can visit it. It's the Toyota City Museum of Art by Yoshio Tamaguchi, who was also the architect who remodeled the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And what is remarkable about it is, I mean, it's a fantastic building, but of course, it is also localized. The building is a fantastic piece of modernism, but Tamaguchi is too intelligent to leave it at that. In the grounds, there are these very traditional buildings and gardens, also designed by him, which make the point about the fact that internationalism only makes sense when it is grounded. You have to ground internationalism in the local if it's to mean anything. So this is about the memory that buildings can carry and the way in which they can communicate to a globalized world. So that's my passion. That's why I agreed to the invitation to take part, is because I am obsessed with this interface between localism and internationalism, and how artists who work at that interface can make the most powerful kinds of communication. Back into Nagoya, the center of Nagoya, this is called the Oasis and the television tower. Both of these images are iconic for the people of Nagoya and Aichi Prefecture, and so they're part of the raw material which artists and architects can work with in coming to Nagoya for the Triennale. Yoko Ono will be placing neon lights on the television tower with a message. Nagoya was all but destroyed in the Second World War. Very little was left above ground. It was razed to the ground. And so everything in Nagoya is basically built in the last 70 years. It was rebuilt on a grid structure, and the roads are famous for being wide because they were built with traffic circulating in mind. So they were not built on the original grain of streets in Nagoya City. It was a tabula rasa starting from scratch. So that's already a piece of memory which many local people have, but it's there for a reason, a very specific reason. Here is an unusual relic of the 1950s. In one quarter of town called the Choyamachi, and artists in 2010, the first Aichi Triennale, were invited to use these spaces for installation, and we have some spaces again in this 2013. This is a photograph by Shomei Tomatsu, who was a Nagoya artist from the 1950s and 60s, who documented the tabula rasa and the reconstruction of Nagoya after the war. And we invited Rigo 23 from San Francisco to engage with the present day of Nagoya, and he's decided to use that image and recreate it in installation around on the three sides of this freestanding building in the Choyomachi district. The Triennale also takes place outside Nagoya. This is Okazaki City. This is an old quarter in Okazaki City, which is a much more historical town. More of it was left after the war. And artists and architects are being invited to engage with this site also, including Gara de la Paz, who are Cuban-born artists now working in Miami, in Florida, who make use of recycled clothing in order to create installations, mise en scène. They're working in Okazaki to fill a disused shop area with what they call a secret garden, inspired by the local landscape. This is the Kibiko building, which is a department store, the top 2 floors of which are currently empty. And that provides a very interesting gallery space for artists to become involved with. This is an installation by Bashir Makul, Palestinian artist, who is one of the 2 Palestinian artists in Venice Biennale, in the Palestinian Pavilion in Venice Biennale this year. And this is his installation called Enter Ghost, Exit Ghost, which is about ghost towns, and more particularly about Jerusalem. My last example is back in Nagoya City itself. There is a building which was built as a bowling alley in the 1960s, and it's mostly disused now. This is what it looks like from the back. It's going to be demolished, and so artists can have free reign in there, and we have about a dozen artists who will be exhibiting in this building, including Richard Wilson from the UK, who began an archaeological exploration of the building and unearthed the fact that the bowling alleys are still there on one of the floors, although the floor has been used for storage for many years. Under the floors, there was still the original bowling alleys. So his project is to excavate one of these alleys and to put it on runners, rails, and allow it to exit the building in a constant motion, in and out of the building. In this way, exemplifying, it's going to emerge from the building in that doorway just by the electric pole there. It will emerge with about 16 or 18 meters outside the building. So that exemplifies the idea of shifting ground. Where are we standing? The answer is on shifting ground. And it's time we woke up to that awakening. And I think many of the artists and architects we have selected to take part in the exhibition address that question very directly about the fact that change is a constant in the urban environment, but that doesn't mean that the urban environment becomes meaningless. It's important to hang on to what it means and to remember the past and to hope for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. I will go for my image. So I'm Kacey Wong. I'm honored to be selected to represent Hong Kong to participate in the Aichi Triennale. I'm based in Hong Kong. And for the Aichi Triennale, I will be featuring 3 groups of work. The first part is architectural base. ever since year 2000, I have a project that paid tributes to the modernism, high modernism. And I basically, because I'm from Hong Kong is such a skyscraper city. So back in year 2000, that was a big real estate tsunami. And all the buildings just collapsed in terms of economy. So they become negative assets, and people just, kind of couldn't pay the mortgage anymore. That makes me rethink about how fragile our real estate prosperity really is. So I have this idea of try to turn this skyscraper into a man. Basically, the idea was from the 1930s. The New York architects, both art boards, they dress up like their creation. So I create this costume, which is made by cardboard. In architecture, there's a term called paper architecture, which represent those architects who never built anything. This is actually the latest work by Daniel Libeskind in Singapore. I find it really resembles my appearance a bit. So I travel around the world and kind of combining tourism and art making at the same time. I choose an interesting site with a background story. Sometimes it's just the position of new and old. Sometimes it's some kind of architectural significance. For example, this is Gerald Ritfield's Schroeder House in Holland. And it's actually done in the 1920s. Notice everything is like in 90 degrees relationship, very, very controlled. And that's the kind of drawback of modernism and modern architecture in some way. Everybody trying to build this kind of skyscraper to represent civilization, maybe high civilization, even though they might not need this type of architectural typology. You can see the phenomenon happening in Dubai, and also I heard China is going to build the tallest skyscraper, which looks like Empire State Building, in I don't know 7 months or something. So prefabricated. So this work, this is the latest image. This picture actually was taken in Nagoya, believe it or not. This building was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. Architecture history book always say that this building was destroyed. The first time when I read about is in Nagoya, I was like so shocked. It's like the resurrection of of the building. It's actually in this theme park called Minjimura. The whole theme park is full of real architecture. Basically, it's kind of like an architecture cemetery, but which is really fun for me. So I earlier this year I went there and pay a visit to this place. You can, I think for anybody who study architecture to really revisit this place is a touch in the heart for me. So took a picture there. In Japan, I'll be also conducting a children's workshop. It's called Architecture Body Street Urban Ninja Workshop. This is an example of that done in Hong Kong last week. So basically assisting the students the young children to observe what's going on the street and trying to imitate these design forms and try to disappear within. You notice the road sign in the middle is actually a child holding a sign, totally merged with the cityscape. So I'll be conducting workshop in Japan. This is a local bus stops. Notice the hair is popping up inside the cardboard. Another sector of the work I'll be showing kind of comes inspired from the rethinking of what is the artist's role in today's contemporary art world and art scene. And I think one operation is like in things like this, Art Basel, which is kind of business side of the arts. But for me, the higher platform is really not here, but like in other occasions, in the society, and also through arts, how you can live the art way and also bring art into your everyday life, care about people and hopefully bring in positive change. And my point of awakening is actually 2 years ago when Ai Weiwei was arrested. Before I was like the rest of the contemporary artists, don't care, don't want to look. They're China and then we're Hong Kong. It's like, okay. But after what the government did to Ai Weiwei really woke me up big time. So I started doing all the research and starting to find out why Ai Weiwei is so scary, and then I realized where's the problem, where our country is heading towards. This is the llama, which is AKA grass mud horse, which is a kind of like Putonghua, a curse to other people. This is my work. I created a grass mud horse 2 years ago, and also conducted back in year 2011. We had a big protest against the illegal arrest of Ai Weiwei in Hong Kong. A lot of people attend, and the grass mud horse lead the way. I think this kind of thing is very, very suitable for Hong Kong and also Japan too. Hong Kong people, they love the manga culture. We love cute-looking things, but at the same time, we have this ferocious anger within us that waiting to come out. I have also other project. This is called the Cultural Bureau. The Communist China trying to infiltrate Hong Kong. Back in 1997, people always ask me, like, what do you think about 1997? And then I said, it's the same. I didn't feel anything. But now if you ask me, 15 years later, I can answer you. Our system is collapsing on a daily basis. 5 of the in the cabinet of this chief executive just fell down and got arrested, being under investigation. So that makes me really, really paranoid. So and also a while ago they tried to change the educational system of Hong Kong, kind of like nationalism, brainwashing, by wanting to create a cultural bureau, but it's all red. So I created a tank made of cardboard, and we went out in the July 1st parade. I created this fictional character, which is kind of like a satire of those Chinese government officials. And I printed my own fake money too, and distributed away during the protest. The people love it. And we marched towards the government headquarters, and you see the Hong Kong citizen. They're so nice, line up in order to receive the money. So this work will be shown, the Pinocchio, which is relating directly to our chief executive, C.Y. Leung, right now, which is famous for his lies. So I want to show you a clip. Can we go to the clip, very short? The short clip of, this was done in July 1st. January 1st. In January 1st, we have a big rally against the chief executive. So the sculpture have a microphone underneath, and it hooked onto my iPhone. So it plays a recording of the competitor of the chief executive, who is accusing him as a liar. Back in January, the La Viscera was a very, very hot movie in Hong Kong. So we were playing the do you hear what people sing at the same time? Some people call Hong Kong is the city of protest. Every week we have protests. As a matter of fact, this Sunday we organize a protest against the People Liberation Army. I dare you to join. It's happening in P10 because the people, PLA, are stealing our land to establish their pier, and people wrote to the town planning board to protest against it, about in one day, close to 9,000 people signed the petition. And June 4th is coming. We are organizing also a bicycle ride to commemorate the student who got shot dead during the '89 massacre. Okay, we can go back to the PowerPoint. So the Pinocchio will be also accompanying me to represent Hong Kong to be shown in Nagoya. Finally, I want to talk about a special installation project I'll be doing in Nagoya. It relates to rethinking about this low-level nationalism and also about international politics. And the project is going to focus on Senkaku Islands. I wish I can live through this and come back and tell us. Do you think I can? No, just kidding. Because this topic is so sensitive. And for me, as a Hong Kongese Chinese, I think is the perfect position to speak for both sides, because Hong Kong have been such a neutral ground for 172 years, and we have a mixture of different culture, and we kind of see things clearly. This is an image of Chinese and Japanese coastal guards bumping each other, and on the left, a Chinese protester burning and beating their own car, which is made in Japan. Actually, it's made in China. It's Toyota. It's sometimes the reality is more surreal than film. And on the right side, the right-wing Japanese protesters. So this is the site, one of the sites that the Aichi Triennale is an office building, and that's very generous to give me the whole floor on the 3rd floor. And my inspiration comes from rethinking about all these Senkaku Island Diryutai incidents, nations going against nations, citizens being manipulated and kind of moved by the government. As you know, in China, public protest is not allowed unless it's sponsored by the government. As a matter of fact, the last protest against the Japanese, people find out some of these guys are policemen themselves, and they flip over police cars. Okay, so this is so very surreal. The media takes part in all these. Government control the media move people. And if you ask some people, where's Senkaku Island, most people don't even know where it is. They think it's in Hokkaido. So this is also another image I have is the drone control center. Now in the United States, many other governments trying to build up their drone control program. This is called unmanned aerial vehicle. They have boat, they have ship, and they launch missiles and kill people. The surreal thing about this is that these pilots, they wear the uniform, but they're actually sitting inside an office, pretending they're flying a plane. So it's very surreal. So all this image mixed together. And I want to introduce you my friends who really live in Senkaku Islands. I find in the internet, these are the birds that really live there. Look at them, kind of peaceful. So my project is called Senkaku Islands Belongs to Birds and Fish. It's kind of surreal, crazy idea. Try not to offend anybody. It's very sensitive issues. And this is the room that was assigned to me, and I'm going to turn it into this. I'm going to build a drone remote control center. Basically, it's a media control center, but if you go inside, a lot of crows and birds, man-eating fish, and it's like some kind of mutation. The birds go crazy, the fish go crazy. They try to control this machine, and I will have 2 movies showing different versions of how the birds try to occupy the islands and how the fish try to make a comeback, and vice versa. Kind of funny and surreal. I think for the ordinary citizens, there's not much we can contribute in these kind of national events. But I think in arts, it can. Art is artist or gallery space. The white wall space is like a neutral ground. It allows many different ideas to emerge and make people reflect upon the so-called reality. So that's what I'll be doing. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kacey. So now it's your turn to ask questions or pass comments on what's been said, and if you don't have any, then we can talk among ourselves a bit in your presence, but it would be great to hear from you. Do we have some microphones? Yeah. Wandering microphones. Who would like to make any comments or say something about their own government? So, Igarashi-san, would you like to say what you have, whether your opinions have changed since you became the director of Aichi Triennale? It's now 2 years since you were working on this project. Has it made a difference? Do you think differently about the relationship between art and architecture, or the role of art and architecture since working on this festival and exhibition?
Yeah, in previous Aichi Triennale, I think there's no architect participate in the festival, and this time because I'm majored in architecture, so around 10 or 8 architects joined the program, and also we held an open architecture program that is to make a chance to see the building usually closed, and also we make a kind of architectural guide. So I think in Aichi Prefecture, the relationship between art and architecture became more intimate, and I think the people who will join this Aichi area maybe have a more interest in the architecture. Yeah, I think there's a change.
Kacey, as an artist who obviously feels very involved with architecture, are you glad to see how many big exhibitions around the world are beginning to join art and architecture, like Hong Kong, Shenzhen Biennale, Istanbul Biennale with Fulya Erdemci this year is about art and architecture. Yuko Hasegawa's exhibition in the Sharjah Biennale was about art and architecture. Is this a good direction for art and architecture to be going, in your view?
I really don't know. I think first of all, architecture is always under play. I mean, architecture of the capital A, not like just development. So I mean, if you look at the world, art establishment is much bigger, but the knowledge of architecture is always under play, and it's like people kind of don't care. People only can look at architecture as some kind of money or commodity. They can only look at it that way, rather than testimony of civilization or artifacts of mankind. So I think, yes, in a way it's good. But another worry of mine is eventually if it's happening in this kind of situation, like a high commodity situation, then it becomes another buy and sell thing, which might not be that good. So that's my worry.
So, but you feel that artists are better at communicating their point of view to a wide public than architects are. Is that what I understood you to say?
See, architects, I actually study architecture. It took me 5 years. And it took me 15 years to unlearn that thing. All right, so it's knowledge is kind of like a poison sometimes, especially nowadays. All the architecture school are kind of going one way, Bauhaus. So that means the the ability to communicate to the mass, to the public. I mean, you listen to architect talk sometimes, Derrida and all these deconstruction things, theories, they don't talk human.
This happens in the art world too.
Yes, it's true. It's true. Some let's not name any names, but it's true. But I think art have an easier approach, and architects tends to be very a language of its own. So I think so that's why I think it's always not fair, because I came from both sectors. But I think it's a good thing that more Biennale now seems to understand like look at Venice, for example, they have separate ones, right? The Architecture Biennale and then the Fine Arts Biennale. So let's not get confused. But if you go there to see the Architecture Biennale, it's all art installation after all. So for me, I never separate the two from day one. Yeah.
So you have organized Liverpool Biennale. So in Liverpool Biennale, did architects join the program?
Yes, we tried to involve architects as much as possible. I mean, Atelier Bawa was exhibited, and De La Scafidio and Renfro, for instance. But this is where I take issue with you, really, in that I think there are many architects who are looking for other ways to make architecture that
they try to escape from their microcosm world and start to take on different platforms. And I think it shouldn't exclude, because it's the same kind of creativity, creative action.
Yes. Yeah, of course, for architects, museum of kind of Triennale is also another kind of a site for them. It is another condition. So maybe sometimes architects can realize experimental project because it is not a permanent building. So for like Junya Ishigami, go beyond the limit of architecture through inside the museum.
I wondered if we have any architects here who want to comment on their own relationship with the art world, or any artists who want to comment on their relationship with the world of architecture. Nope.
No, don't bring them back to the work. They're here to escape.
Any fish who want to fight with the birds, or birds who want to fight with the fish?
Okay,
I think we've run out of time, but thank you all very much for being here and listening. And please come to Aichi Triennale, which opens the 9th of August and goes on until the end of October.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.